In ancient Rome, under a sky tinged with shades of power and ambition, a young man was born destined to change the course of history: Nero. The son of Gnaeus Domitius Ahenobarbus and Agrippina the Younger, a shrewd and ambitious member of the powerful Julia Claudian family, Nero's future was marked by nobility and political intrigue. From his earliest childhood, Nero showed a peculiar interest in the arts. This inclination deviated from the Roman norm of valuing the military and administration over artistic disciplines. However, his destiny took a dramatic turn with the untimely death of his father. Agrippina, with impressive political astuteness, managed to marry Emperor Claudius, thus securing an imperial future for her son. Claudius' adoption of Nero was a strategic move that placed him in direct line for imperial succession. Under the tutelage of Seneca, a philosopher and statesman of great renown, and the supervision of Afranius Burrus, the commander of the Praetorian Guard, Nero was molded to rule. He was taught lessons in rhetoric, history, and politics, preparing him for the complex challenges of imperial life. Meanwhile, Agrippina maneuvered in the shadows, securing alliances and neutralizing political enemies, always to place her son on the throne. Her influence on Claudius' decisions was notorious, and many at the court began to see in Nero not only the emperor's adopted heir but also the future ruler of Rome. Despite his inclination for the arts, young Nero was no stranger to his mother's machinations. He observed and learned, realizing that the road to power was paved as much by knowledge and cunning. Still, he remained an artist in his heart, dreaming of a world where poetry and music were as valuable as strength and strategy. Barely a teenager, Nero found himself at the head of one of the most powerful empires in history. The suspicious death of his stepfather, Emperor Claudius, had opened the doors of supreme power to him. Despite his youth, he showed a surprising aptitude for management and government, although always under the watchful eye of his mother, Agrippina the Younger. The early years of his rule were marked by wise and prudent counsel. Seneca, his tutor, was a Stoic philosopher whose influence was reflected in the young emperor's moderate and rational policies. Alongside him, Burrus, the prefect of the Praetorium, ensured the army's loyalty and the imperial administration's effectiveness. This period also evidenced Nero's love of the arts and culture. Breaking with tradition, he became personally involved in cultural activities, promoting construction projects and artistic events. His passion for music, poetry, and theater was not just a hobby but an integral part of his vision for the empire. However, absolute power is a heavy burden, especially for someone so young. The pressure to rule began manifesting in impulsive decisions and a growing desire for independence from the authoritarian figures in his life. Her relationship with her mother, once one of guidance and protection, began transforming into a game of power and manipulation. Agrippina, who had cunningly maneuvered to bring her son to the throne, was unwilling to give up her influence so quickly. As Nero matured, his desire for autonomy clashed with Agrippina's attempts to maintain her control. This tension intensified, gradually changing the young emperor's character and policies. The ideas and advice of Seneca and Burrus, though still valued, began to compete with a growing desire for self-assertion and freedom. In this context, Nero began to exhibit a duality in his character. On the one hand, he showed a genuine interest in the welfare of his people and the promotion of the arts. On the other, he revealed himself as a ruler capable of extreme measures to secure his position and satisfy his personal ambitions. Under his rule, the empire remained stable and prosperous, but the seeds of future conflicts and tragedies were already sown. Nero's relationship with his mother, Agrippina the Younger, was complex, marked by admiration, fear, and distrust. She shrewd and ambitious Agrippina had maneuvered skillfully to ensure her son's ascension to the throne. Still, her influence in the affairs of the empire soon became a source of tension. Nero, in his early years as emperor, depended heavily on Agrippina. She, skilled in Roman politics, exercised her power behind the scenes, ensuring that her interests were well represented in her son's decisions. However, as Nero grew in confidence and sought to assert his authority, he began to see his mother's domineering presence as an obstacle to his autonomy. The tension between mother and son gradually escalated. Agrippina, fearing to lose her influence, began to align herself with political figures who could be seen as threats to Nero. On the other hand, Nero, eager to free himself from maternal control, began to surround himself with advisors who frowned upon Agrippina's interference. Rumors and suspicions began to circulate in the court. It was said that Agrippina was plotting against Nero, and she was planning to replace him with another, more manageable member of the imperial family. Nero, disturbed and paranoid, saw every action of his mother as a possible plot against his government. The situation came to a head when Nero decided to act. The decision to eliminate his own mother was not an easy one. Still, Nero, influenced by those who wished to see Agrippina fall, finally gave the order. The execution was planned to look like an accident. Still, the suspicious circumstances surrounding Agrippina's death left little doubt as to its true nature. Agrippina's murder marked a radical change in Nero's reign. He had freed himself from his mother's influence, but at a tremendous cost. News of the patricide spread quickly, tarnishing Nero's image in the eyes of the people and the Roman elite. The figure of Agrippina, in life a symbol of power and cunning, in death became a specter that would haunt Nero for the rest of his reign, a constant reminder of how far he had gone for power. The reign of Nero, the young Roman emperor, was marked by tumultuous events, but none as catastrophic as the Great Fire of Rome in 64 AD. This disaster would forever alter the course of his reign and the ancient city's history. The fire began in the merchant area of the city, rapidly engulfing the narrow, winding streets of Rome. Fueled by wooden structures and summer winds, the flames raged uncontrollably for nearly a week. With its majestic buildings and bustling life, Rome was transformed into a horrifying spectacle of destruction. Nero, away from the city at the onset of the fire, returned to witness a scene of utter devastation. His reaction to this calamity remains a topic of historical debate. Some accounts portray him as indifferent, even callous, while others suggest he was actively involved in relief efforts. The emperor opened his palaces to shelter the homeless and arranged for food delivered to the afflicted population. However, the disaster offered Nero an unprecedented opportunity. With much of the city in ruins, he envisioned a grand urban renewal project. Nero planned the construction of a magnificent new palace, the Domus Aurea, which would feature lavish gardens, grandiose architecture, and artistic masterpieces. Yet the rapid spread of the fire and its timely extinguishment under Nero's command led to whispers and rumors. People began to speculate that Nero had ordered the fire to clear the land for his new palace. These rumors were exacerbated by Nero's artistic inclinations. Tales spread of him singing and playing the lyre while Rome burned, though historians now largely discredited these accounts. To divert suspicion from himself, Nero sought a scapegoat. He targeted the Christians, a small but growing religious group, accusing them of arson. This accusation led to brutal persecution, where many Christians were arrested, tortured, and executed, often in ghastly public spectacles. The Roman Emperor Nero had a unique passion for the arts, especially music, poetry, and theater. Defying the conventions of the Roman aristocracy, he actively participated in artistic competitions and organized festivals and contests, striving to make Rome a cultural center rivaling the Greek cities. His participation was not just a pastime, it was an integral part of his identity, although his victories in these competitions were often viewed with skepticism, attributed more to his position than to his actual skill. While promoting the arts in Rome, Nero was also known for his extravagance, building large-scale theaters and organizing extended feasts and spectacles. These artistic displays, while impressive, also reflected a disdain for the social and political norms of the time. Nero, in his dual role as patron and artist, blurred the lines between art and imperial authority, which often brought him criticism and discontent among the elite. Nero's artistic legacy is as complex as his reign. To some, he represented a genuine patron and art enthusiast. To others, he was a tyrant whose creative zeal could not compensate for his ruthless acts. Despite this, his love of the arts left a profound mark on the culture of Rome, one that endured through time and continues to generate debate about his actual impact on Roman art and society. The last years of Nero's reign were marked by events reflecting his increasingly erratic and uncontrolled rule. Surrounded by luxury and extravagance, his behavior and decisions were out of step with the needs and expectations of the Roman people and the political elite. Nero immersed himself in a lifestyle of unprecedented excess. Opulent feasts, grandiose architectural projects, and his continued obsession with the arts, especially personal performances, began to breed resentment. His detachment from Rome's political and social realities created a gulf between him and the ruling classes, as well as between him and the people. The finances of the empire suffered severely due to his extravagant spending. Nero imposed heavy taxes and confiscated property to finance his personal ambitions and architectural projects, such as constructing his opulent Domus Aurea residence. This fiscal pressure generated discontent and resentment among the affected classes, especially the nobles and merchants. In addition, his government became more autocratic and brutal. Executions of senators and other prominent figures became common, as Nero saw conspiracies and treachery around every corner. His paranoia grew, and with it, his cruelty. The citizens of Rome lived in constant fear and distrust, fearing for their lives and property. Nero's popularity, once considerable due to his initial focus on public welfare and the arts, quickly faded. Discontent spread among the masses and the Praetorian Guard, the army, and the Senate. The provinces, also affected by his policies, began to show signs of rebellion. Eventually, a series of rebellions broke out throughout the empire. Galba, governor of Hispania, took up arms against Nero, declaring himself the representative of the Senate and the people of Rome. Nero, facing betrayal by his own guards and advisors, fled Rome. The Senate, seizing the opportunity, declared him a public enemy and sentenced him to death. Abandoned by almost everyone, Nero briefly contemplated fleeing to the east, where he still had some support, or making a desperate appeal to the people of Rome. However, realizing he had no way out, he opted for suicide. His last words were, "What a great artist dies with me!" Nero's death ended not only his reign but also the Julio-Claudian dynasty. This era had seen the transformation of the Roman Republic into the Roman Empire.